Recorded Books and RB Digital present Black Souls by Gioacchino Criaco, translated by Hilary Gully, narrated by Edoardo Ballerini. Much, too much blood has been spilled by and has flowed from the children of the forest, brothers uselessly and stupidly divided. If only God and the gods could placate the warrior spirit of their souls and drive away the demon that possesses them. We walked at a clip, resting ourselves from the damp embrace of the heather and ferns. He marched ahead of me, while I trailed behind like a dog sled. We'd already milked the goats, and after closing them into the fold and storing their milk, in the first shadows of nightfall we set off, crossing the mountain, and leaving behind our view of one sea in pursuit of another. The delivery of the swine would take place many miles away. It had been drizzling for days. A heavy camouflage jacket, Spanish military issue, kept the water from drenching my shirt and pants. The steam from my body exited the jacket in puffs, and through the pockets, which opened to the inside, I kept making sure that my AK-47 was dry, and that the safety lever remained on, and not in the full or semi-automatic position. The shock of cold metal added to the adrenaline that was already in my veins. We traversed forests of holm oak, low and dense, invaded by thorny broom that sometimes won their struggle against our clothing and marked our flesh. The narrow rows of pines, with their branches low and dry, constantly sought out our eyes, forcing us to lower our heads so our cap visors could defend us against their onslaughts. Forests of towering, majestic larch trees, whose soft needles concealed deep holes dug by the wild boars, tested the flexibility and stability of our ankles, and one misstep was all it took to end up slung over the strong shoulders of a companion, assuming there was one to come to the rescue. Immense beech trees claimed the flatlands, which were scattered with leaves that produced a deafening crunch in the silent forest. After we reached the summit and began our descent, the vegetation repeated itself in reverse. Even in daylight, such a hike would have been unthinkable. Suicide, for someone with untrained eyes, with its tangled brush, perilous rocks, impulsive torrents, malicious cliffs, and barbed wire fences. He was in symbiosis with the apparently savage wilderness, merged with it wholly and a part of it, one more of its essential elements. The mountain which rejects hostility accepted him, and in return he loved it more than any other thing in this world. It was his belief that he and the mountain hated only two things: oak trees and swine, both terrible for the environment. The oaks made the soil dry and desert-like, and its fruits nourished the swine, which in turn destroyed the forests, embankments, mushrooms, crops, and pastures. He knew every step, every tree, brook, cliff, shelter, and pitfall, as only a native of these parts could. He had been born and raised here. He'd gone away for some time, but the mountain inevitably reclaimed him. Whoever was born of it would die there, and there were only two ways to die: from exhaustion or a lead bullet. It was nearly impossible to escape both fates. The man in question was my father, a typical product of this land, thick-set, strong, tough, hardened and fragile at the same time, above all, determined to resist the rule of law or morals at any cost. Together we devoured the road that would take us to the swine, our land's sustenance and poison. It was still dark when we arrived. We swept the area in a series of concentric circles that contracted as we went. Not a soul. Only nocturnal animals for company. We sat down on two large rocks downhill from the guardrail that divided the rest stop from the highway. And we waited. From time to time a noise would shake the silence of the night, and two headlights would pierce the darkness. Only passing cars. And we would go back to waiting. After a few hours we heard a different sort of rumble. A truck slowed to a roll and stopped. A door opened, and shadows scurried along the guardrail and crouched low to the ground. The truck went on its way. A few seconds later, the silence and darkness took over again. I could
Sample complete. Ready to continue?